Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. And today is the first day of 2024, and I'm delighted this afternoon to be joined by Asim Rabani and Jerry Taylor. Welcome to the show, guys. You are looking resplendent on the first day of the year. Asim, anything you fancy talking about, mate?
Firstly, Happy New Year to all the guys at Acsom, all the viewers, all the Celtic fans out there. Been a brilliant weekend. What a way to start the year. Absolutely delighted. I'm sure we'll get into all the intricacies and details in short time. But yeah, firstly, just a Happy New Year to you all. Hope you're all in just as good a mood as I am today.
You're in fine fettle. You've got a ready break glow about you, Asim. And no, that's the important thing, Jerry. It's about saying Happy New Year to everybody. Not everybody's waking up this morning, Jerry, feeling the joys of the new year. It's a sad time for a lot of people. And but I think in 2023, what we've seen is how much of a change and how much of a difference pulling together and being part of a community can actually bring to people's lives.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. It's like you say, it's a tough time for a lot of people. Especially you're waking up feeling blue, if you know what I'm saying. But mental health wise, there's been a lot of people. A few folk reached out to me last night as well. So anyone that's out there, I hope you got through it last night. This is the year for us all. Positive thinking, positive vibes. I'm looking forward to 2024. Nearly lost a year
so
there.
you should be. So you should be. No, listen, during that pandemic and everything, everybody kind of lost a year. There's loads for us to discuss. I'm running with the headline here about Brendan Rodgers because I want to start off, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the action, Asim, about Brendan Rodgers after the game. I just seen an approach from him. It was like he's got his mojo back, you know, throwing a few wee grenades in there as well. I love to see it. It was brilliant.
Yeah, he absolutely lives for these games. I'm the same as you. I love seeing that. You know, there might be people saying, "Oh, it's a bit too premature to come out with that kind of stuff," but absolutely not. And you seen, I don't know if you've seen, there's a video doing the rounds of Cal McGregor. I think it was like a private function at the stadium afterwards, and you can tell that's something that's probably been spoken about in the dressing room. But the difference is with Brendan doing it and Callum doing it, these are guys who are proven winners. So when we do our talking, we can back it up. You know, these guys have won derbies, they've won titles, endless titles. So when they come out with a comment like that, you know it's something that there's substance behind it because we've done it before. We've shown it again. Again, there was doubters, in the last few weeks, ourselves included. We've all raised the concerns, but it just shows you the spine of that team, the key players, the manager, the captain, Kyogo. They all know they've got confidence in themselves. They back themselves, and they can come out and prove it time and time again. So I absolutely loved hearing that. I thought it was brilliant. You can see he's got his swagger back. He lives for these games as well. And I think it was just it was just exactly what we all needed. As a club from fan base, everyone was so united. And just to touch on what Jerry was saying earlier there, like this time of year, obviously it's a great time of year, but for a lot of people it isn't. Even myself included, it wasn't a great week last week. But see, on Saturday when you go to the game, my dad, he sacrificed his ticket and gave it to my nephew, so I took my nephew along. And he's been to a couple of games, derby games, but he, see the joy in his face, seeing all the fans, everyone was united for that 90 minutes. It's just all about Celtic and the joy it brings, and it's just amazing the mood, that Celtic can bring to you. Because since then, I've not stopped watching highlights, watching the unique angles, watching every celebration, every podcast, loving the meltdown. It's just been a joy. So it just shows you the power of Celtic when things are going well. It's brilliant.
It is a powerful force, Asim, and you're right about the meltdown. We're going to get stuck in about that and how that kind of trickles into social media. It trickles into that wee device in your pocket and how you can use that to your advantage as well. Yesterday, I mentioned to some of the Acsom troops about this time of the year always reminds me, Jerry, right, about the New Year's Day game in 1992. Now, let me know in the comment section if you were at the game, right? You will remember it. You were 9 years of age. What
I
would
was
I have
9.
been? I would have been 11. No, wait a minute. Just 14 actually. Just turned. And 13. And me and my old fella went, and it was hosing it down. I mean, it was soaking wet. And I remember going into the jungle that day and absolutely drenched, completely drenched, right? And my scarf was really heavy, the old style scarf. It was heavy as anything. And I remember doing that and throwing it over my shoulder, and it hit this guy right on the cooting behind me in the jungle. And I just thought, oh no, he's going to kick off. But you know this, you could actually see the steam emanating from the crowd as the body heat started to get everybody het up, you know. And that was a poor Celtic team. It really was a poor Celtic team, and they were throwing a wee bit of money at trying to bring big players in. And there's certain moments of that game I remember. And this time of the year always brings me back to that game. I was thinking about why yesterday. I think that was the first Celtic Rangers game I went to with my dad. I think that's what it was, right? And Alan McCoy opened the scoring. Tony Mowbray scored a header to equalise. Big mogger, right? And then McCoy's dive to get a penalty. I kid you not. Watch it back, right? Marshall did not take him down. He dives for the penalty, right? Now, if that was Rangers, they'd have still been going on about it to this day. This is something I was thinking about yesterday as well, right? Hateley scores the penalty, and John Brown wrapped up a comprehensive 3-1 defeat for Celtic. And I always think back to that because it was probably the first game I was at against Rangers with the old fella. And I've just been round to his place now to wish him a happy new year. How's it going, old man? He's like, the back's still sore because of the celebrations, like Acsom was saying, against Rangers just the other day there. So these cycles continue and you pass the baton down. I want to talk about the game itself. Also, want to bring in the comments, as many as possible in the comment section. And if anybody does see anybody in there who shouldn't be in the comment section like we did last week, let us know and we'll be able to kick them out. I don't think we'll have many of them, though. Stephen Sloan. We have to get this. Keep them in. Yeah, feel the pain. We have to get the window right. Yes, we can't muck this up. Yeah, I'm hearing rumours of Scott McKenna and another Korean player. Please God, no. Right. There's loads to discuss in relation to that. And I know that we're in January and it's all about trying to really mould this team now, Acsom, in the vision of Brendan Rodgers. But what I would say is I've been very critical of the summer transfer window. I really have. I thought it was a really poor effort. It was a missed opportunity to really refine this side. But what we did see at the weekend is two guys who really haven't been on that radar of success really coming to the fore. And I want to start talking about Bernardo and Nawrocki. I thought the pair of them played a massive part in the game, Acsom. And by the way, I'm delighted, although, you know, I was probably taken aback a wee bit.
Yeah, the Nawrocki one especially. Bernardo, we've seen in glimpses, and he's played all the kind of bigger games, so to speak. He's played in every European game. He's obviously the one the manager trusts to play those games, and he was tailor-made for that fixture at the weekend as well. You can just see he's growing in confidence, and you know a lot of fans have kind of been saying, what does he really bring to the table? But you could see wee glimpses without him really taking the game by the scruff of the neck. But I thought at the weekend there, that first half, him and McGregor, I thought particularly were, you know, the springboard for everything good we did. So I was really impressed with him. And it just kind of came to me that he's only 21. Someone mentioned at weekends, he plays like a much more mature player. So I think he's gonna get better, and he could be a really key component of that midfield for the rest of the season. So yeah, really impressed with him. Delighted for his goal, brilliant strike. And as for Nawrocki, he's the one that, again, a lot of people have been a bit bamboozled with why he's not featured at all. You know, he's been totally out of the picture, not even making squads. So it was quite baffling because I think in the early part of the season, when he did play, it was only, you know, a couple of appearances, but he looked pretty steady. He looked pretty decent to me. So when he came on, I thought, you know, he's come out of the cold. He's not played football in months. It's going to be a tough one just to throw him in there. But it says a lot that he absolutely strolled it. I thought he was brilliant. He was calm on the ball. I thought, you know, I think when he first came on, when Welsh went off, we struggled a bit. I think just naturally the whole kind of back line started panicking for a bit. But he really grew into that game and made some really kind of crucial late challenges and just totally got into his comfort zone. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. I think we all probably felt that you're not going to spend that much money that we have and not give him a chance. Now, obviously, it looks like maybe Lagerbielke will be the one that goes out the door, and Nawrocki will now get his chance in the second half of the season. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. I think there's a player there.
I do think that, and it was a bit of a baffling one, like you say, because you're left to kind of take what you've got in terms of information and then come to your own conclusion over it. And everything regarding Lagerbielke points to him being out the door in January, but there was still question marks around Nawrocki. And simply because he wasn't playing. But I think you've got to remember as well, Jerry, it was mentioned after the game, it was brought up again by Brendan Rodgers, he wasn't, due to the circumstances and the time, and he wasn't named in the Champions League squad
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's been in Brendan Rodgers' mind, when he's setting teams up. What's the point in bringing Nawrocki in when we know we're going to have to drop him every other week for a Champions League game? That might have affected him. But when he came in, I felt, I've said this before, I think there's shades of Jozo Simunovic in there. The big last-ditch tackles, and he does it fairly but really, really strongly, and it really emboldens the rest of the team, and the fans love it as well. He's got a bit of that about him. I liked his distribution. I thought that, his passing was excellent as well. But I'm going to tie that performance into some of the comments that are coming in about signing targets as well, Jerry. But before we do that, how impressed were you with Bernardo and Nawrocki?
Right, first off, Gaffer, I want to point you out to the WhatsApp message I sent you just before kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what I sent you?
It's there. It's there for all to see.
Bernardo, man of the match, incoming. Now, he didn't quite get that. But I just had a feeling about him. Now, the good thing as well, there was a couple of times where he got in a position to score. There was the Palmer ball, and I want to get back to that ball about Palmer because there's a lot of talk about his distribution just now, but remind me about that later. But he should have scored that header. He had the shot just before that that's hit the side net, and so it's exciting to see that he's getting these chances to put the ball in the net, that he's putting himself in these positions. I'm hearing 1.5 million for him now. Is this true, or is this just rumours that are floating about? Because if it's true, bite your hand off. If it's not true, and it's the 6 million or 5.5 million people are talking, I'd seriously consider it. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they'll take that risk off the back of 3-4 good games. But I think he also did really well in the Champions League when he was brought on against Atletico. I was at the game. I really like the boy. So he's get pass marks for me. If you'd asked me about two weeks ago, I'd probably said maybe no take the risk. But I think he's got something about him, the boy. And Nawrocki, I'm not getting ahead of myself, but gave him a 10-year contract. I loved him. That's what it was all about. Seeing these derby games, I know Brendan said he was a bit rash with it. I just love seeing him getting right in about it. Like you said, that 5 minutes where it was a bit disjointed. I just thought, oh no. But then as soon as it clicked, but I do want to say as well, massive, massive sympathy for Welsh because
I know,
poor boy. I think he's going to be a huge player for us in the future. And do you know what? I really want to keep Welsh. I want to keep a hold of him. So good luck to him. Really sorry that's happened. What a way to start your new year. But yes, great signs from Nawrocki and Bernardo. Sign up.
Listen, you said if you'd asked me a couple of weeks ago, well, the shows are all out there for everybody to go and pour over. You get things right, you get things wrong. My take on Bernardo, and I said it on Acsom, was that I would able guard him. That's what I said. But there's no playing. There's no playing. We're out of the Champions League. End the loan, move him on. Play somebody else, give him the game time. But in the interim, in that 2-week period, he's come into the side, clearly against Livingston and Dundee in preparation for the Rangers game. He scored that goal against Dundee, which was so important, by the way, because that game is going, it was a frustrating game trying to break them down. He gets the opener. It reminds me a wee bit of the goal that Jota scored against St Mirren. Last season it was, where we were really struggling to break them down. We scored a scrappy goal, and then it opens everything up. Bernardo's goal was a bit like that. Then he goes into the Rangers game. I thought he was excellent. I really do. He would have played the full game had it not been for the booking. And he scores the goal, of course, which was, the finesse was unreal. I think, Asim, correct me if I'm wrong, I think, from what I understand, £1.5 million is the loan fee that we've paid for the boy. However, if we have to buy him, it's more like the higher fees. It's 6 or 7 million euros is what I have heard is the fee if we want to buy the player. What's your understanding of that, Asim?
Yeah, that's correct. That's from what I've heard as well. It would be ideal if it was 1.5 to buy him. I think that you can see already that would possibly be a really good investment. But I think it is closer to the 5-6, which is a hefty fee for where we're at. We spent that on Jota and CCV, and we've seen how influential they were. So I think he'd need to have a really good second half of the season for us to probably be willing to shell that amount of money. For me, he just the fact that he was trusted in all the European games shows you that Brendan rates him as well. I know we didn't have a great amount of options, but as soon as Hatate got injured against Atletico Madrid, on came Bernardo, and I think featured every game since. So he's what I like about him is he's brilliant off the ball. He gets a lot of interceptions in. He's quite physical. But what we've now seen in the last couple of games is what he can do on the ball as well. which I think is what was probably missing, and why Brendan maybe didn't play him in the domestic games, where he probably felt we've got more of the ball and we need someone a bit more incisive and creative. But from what I've seen, he does a better job all round than the likes of maybe David Turnbull and Home, who's looked promising, but I think he's been ill, so he's been out of the picture a wee bit. But I think he's, again, as a lot of it is confidence as well. You see that with the players on Saturday. Once you get a bit of confidence in you, and Bernardo, he was obviously flying from the midweek goal and things like that, but he was brilliant. He was everywhere. And as you said, I think if he hadn't got the booking, he'd have stayed on longer. So yeah, I think it's one of those, wait and see how he gets on, if we can back it up and that accounts for the rest of the team and Celtic in general. That was brilliant on Saturday, but we need to back that up now, and it needs to carry on. And that's the onus on the players like Bernardo and the rest of them around, to make sure that wasn't just a false dawn again. We've finally got those 3 games in a row that we've been talking about, but we've got a tough one tomorrow, and the key is to make sure we back that up.
It is tough, and I always remember, I go back to the game where we beat Rangers 3-0, and it was Chris Commons scored the goal that swerved in front of McGregor and went round him. It went right round him, and I remember after we went 3-0 up, it was an absolute cakewalk, Acsom, and we started singing, "We Shall Never Be Moved," right? We started singing it, and there's a wee bit of triumphalism about that song. I get it, but we were absolutely destroying them at the time. And I remember my mate turning around to me and saying, we've got Motherwell to look at it first part. And I'm like, just enjoy the moment, mate, And we went out and got beat by Motherwell 2-0, you remember. I think Charlie McGrew scored an OG and all this. But yeah, that's always in the back of your mind. And I think Brendan Rodgers, as soon as the dust is settled, he's enjoyed it. As of today, you're back in and you're tuned in again. And it's St Mirren tomorrow night. I'm really keen to bring in some of the comments. We've spoken about the first goal. We'll be talking about Kyogo's goal as well. Hart has come in for loads of criticism for the free kick. I want to talk about Joe Hart, Callum McGregor. He was getting bigged up by the gaffer after the game. We're going to talk about whether or not anybody in the comment section was ever into Deacon Blue, and if so, what particular singles they were into as well. And we've got to remember on this day, Frank McGarvey, the late, great Frank McGarvey, Francis McGarvey, passed away this day a year ago after a short battle against cancer. And I got to know him a bit because he was the manager of the Old Boys team that Acsom sponsored. We've done a few gigs together. And he visited us in the studio probably a month or so before he passed away, maybe 2 months before he passed away, with Tommy Sheridan. And very, very sad to see him go. And I know that his boys are pushing various charities in his name as well. So our thoughts and prayers are with his friends and family today. Frank McGarvey, a Celtic great. Now, Danny, Tiny Hands. Sorry, Donny, Tidy Hands. Kyogo not called up to the Japan squad. We'll tie this into the second goal then. Got word this morning, Kyogo is not in the squads. We kind of took it for granted. But with that wee niggling thought in your mind, Acsom, that from time to time the Japanese manager doesn't fancy him. Yeah. He seems to favour Maeda. It's a bit of a boost for Celtic, to be honest. If we're going to be selfish about it, but I don't think it changes anything in terms of what we do in January transfer-wise.
Yeah, he's Moriyasu, I think that's his name, the Japanese manager, doesn't seem to fancy him. Obviously, he was in pretty good form pre the World Cup and didn't get selected for that. And then he got called up after that for a few games and scored as well. So obviously he's not been in great form in recent weeks for Celtic, recent months for Celtic, but he showed his quality there with that goal, which we'll touch on. But in terms of the January side of things, I don't think it changes much. We've got Yang, Maeda all going, Hatate going. So, four creative players. So I still think we're obviously going to be on the lookout in terms of the striking position. Disappointing for Kyogo because I do feel he deserves the call up. He that moment of class that he showed, it truly was world class. It was, as I said, it was probably one of the we've scored a lot of great derby goals in recent years, but that for me is up there. Just everything about it, the movement, the shimmy. Because I think, like all of us, we were screaming for him to pass the ball but as soon as it left his foot, and I don't know if you see some of the players' reactions, like Taylor and Bernardo, and mine was the same in the ground. You're just in shock. You're like, wow, did he just pull that off? And he's capable of that. He's shown that against Rangers. He's shown that time and time again for Celtic. That's seven goals against them in 2023. Unbelievable stats, So it's a shame for him that he's not been called up. But if that's now him back in form and has got his mojo back as well, then that's great news for us.
It is, and behind me you will see that various items of Celtic memorabilia, some people might say tat, are displayed on the shelving system just to my rear. And there is a video up there, and it is called this, before I use the term, it's called Hail Hail Old Firm Classics. And I think it would be only fair that the club release something to bring us right up to date from 2012 up to the present day. Glasgow Derby classics. I think that would be a tremendous compilation, including the 7 goals that you mentioned there, Acsom, because we have scored a barrel load against them since 2012. Now, Kyogo, when we're talking about him, Jerry, leading into this game, I think that there's a lot of discussion on Acsom about his form. If he was happy, people start looking at his body language. There was the comments from Brendan Rodgers in relation to what he's been asked to do, what he's doing. Bottom line is, the boy's a big game player, always has been for Celtic. Cup finals, this season in Europe, games against Rangers, he steps up to the mark. He's got the quality. When we talk about quality, and Rodgers uses the word a lot, this is the type of player we're talking about, Jerry. Someone like Kyogo, who no one else on the park could score that goal. That's the difference, right? That is the difference. And he's scoring into a goalkeeper who we've been hearing all season is a massive upgrade in terms of the Rangers keeper, right? And he scores that goal. It was a phenomenal strike. I think he shut up a lot of critics who would suggest that Lawrence Shankland was a better striker of the ball than him, etc., 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 Jerry. But more importantly than that, I think it's going to ease any pain that he's going to be feeling, because he spoke about his disappointment, making the World Cup squad, remember. Any pain that he's feeling, it's basically, right, let's refocus this into what you're doing for Celtic. Put that behind you, draw a line. You're back in amongst the goals. It was a wonder goal. I agree, a world-class strike. And then in the second part of this season, that wee bit of form there, that's a blip and shows what you can do.
Yeah. When it comes to the likes of Kyogo, he's the kind of player you don't get too worried when he's off form, because you just know his quality. You get other players that you've got in your squad, you think, did they have a purple patch and it's not going to happen again? With Kyogo, you knew it was going to happen again. That's why even off form, you were happy for him to start the game. You knew that he had something in his locker, and he always provides. It gives me the kind of Tom Rogic vibes in the big games. It always seems to produce, obviously like the King used to do as well. I feel sorry for him, but like you said, in a selfish way, I'd rather they took Dyson Maeda than they took Kyogo. But you feel for him, don't you? He's got that kind of. You're attached. I'm attached to Kyogo in that way, like in a personal as well. You just feel for him. Did you see the documentary when he didn't get picked for the Japan squad? And he just seems like the nicest guy that puts his heart and soul into his work. He really does. You're gutted for him that he's not going, but I get why as well, because if you're going by form, his form hasn't been great. So maybe that's the reasons why you can't. Maybe he's just saying just off the back of that goal, it was too late for him. But then again, you seen that poll that came out? It was, I don't know how true it was, but it was all the Japanese players that voted for their international team of the year, and Kyogo was selected as the striker. So I don't know if their managers, he's meant to be a bit mad, this guy. So he's maybe just sort of went, I'm not letting them pick my team, I'm dropping him, because it did look like he was going to get selected. So it's great for us. We do need another striker in though. We're losing Maeda, and from what I've heard, striker's priority. That's what I'm hearing. So who knows what's going to happen? I'm really looking forward to seeing who goes out first before who comes in. I know that's madness, but there's too many in the squad.
There is. And the thing with that, Jerry, and I'm going to bring up this point because the names have started filtering in, and you expect that. It seems some sources are brilliant, some others it's just paper talk to get the clicks, And I've said this time and time again, I'm going to have egg on my face if Sidney Van Hooijdonk signs for Celtic. I think it's just garbage. I think it's just clickbait nonsense. You've
got a pretty good source for that, don't you?
True. You put the two names together and people will click the link, but then you start looking at some of the other names that are coming in. You try and look at the sources and say, right, they've been pretty good before, they're credible. And a few people have mentioned, Stephen Sloan earlier on mentioned the fact that we might be interested in McKenna. Again, it's a player we've been interested in previously. But picture the scene. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. If he is on the list of players that we're interested in, right? and we're going into the January transfer window and taking what Jerry says into account, we remove one of our central defenders, and the chances are it's going to be Lagerbielke. Move him on. Kobayashi's on his way. Nat Phillips will go back to Liverpool if he isn't already there. He probably is. And then it leaves us with a situation where we've got Carter Vickers and Scales as your first picks. Underneath them, Nawrocki and Welsh. Unfortunately, Welsh is injured. And you bring another one in. Now, if you're basically removing Lagerbielke and bringing in McKenna, and let's say it's about the same price, right, because he's way out of favour with Nottingham Forest at the moment, is that a bad thing? I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. Is that a bad thing? You're not picking him. You're not bringing him in to put him right in the first team as a first pick. You know, at the moment, he'd be sitting in that backup kind of area that Lagerbielke isn't making an impression in. He's not contributing in.
I get what you're saying, but for me, I think I personally now think we should be aiming to most of the signings that we now make not be squad fillers or not be backup ones, because we've already got so many of them. Even if you look at the centre-back, McKenna, I've always thought he's okay, but I don't think he's good enough to take us to the next level. I'd be looking, if we're going to sign another centre-back, somebody that's on a par with CCV or that. And I know you can't, it's not a guarantee. Obviously, he's a very good player. It's very hard to find somebody of that quality. But that's the kind of level we should be aiming at. If we're now going for somebody who we all reasonably know that, I don't know, everyone will have different opinions on McKenna, but I don't think he's at that level. You know, I don't think he's probably even better than Scales on the form Scales is showing. So I personally wouldn't think that's something that's going to absolutely strengthen us. But at the same time, yeah, it's not going to weaken us. If we were to get rid of Phillips, get rid of Lagerbielke, get rid of Kobayashi, and then you've got the guys that you've mentioned, it's a decent spread of centre-back talent that, you know, should somebody get injured, you're not overly worried, right? It's a massive drop-off. But if you're talking about how do we get better as a team going forward, going into, I don't know, it's looking way ahead, but as of a couple of months ago, all the chat was that we were, you know, comfortable in the league, and we're talking about how do we improve in Europe. So I don't think that should be now suddenly negated now that we're in a title race that, let's just get the league done. We still need to be looking forward as to come summer, we're going to want a better calibre of player again. So that should be what we're aiming at just now as well. And for me, McKenna, he's okay, but nothing more. So I would be hoping that in the coming weeks and by the end of this month, we're looking at a better standard of quality coming in.
That's a great point. Well made by Acsom there, Jerry. When you're looking at the Celtic mood in the camp at the moment, and we go into January and we're kind of buoyant in the fact that we've managed to obviously go into the big one and win it. There's also that kind of balancing act where it's like, if you then announce a player like McKenna, I think he'll be pretty underwhelming to a lot of the Celtic support for the reasons mentioned that Acsom quite clearly mapped out there. Do you think we also need to take that into account? And I'm not saying just sign players for the marquee kind of sense, but it needs to show us a clear vision of where we're going. And it's not just about stay a couple of points ahead of the opposition. It is about saying, right, how can we progress in Europe? It's gone this season. Let's start planning. And let's do it in plenty of time so that when these guys start, you know, playing Champions League football, they've already got 6 months in their legs. I mean, what do you think the reaction would be, Jerry, if that type of signing was to come in January?
I'm an Acsom side here. I mean, I know you've got to play devil's advocate, but come on, it's New Year's Day, mate, and you're talking about McKenna here. We've got about 300 centre-backs right now, and I think the last thing we need to do is be bringing another one in.
That sounds like what Brendan might say if we sign him.
You know what? See, if it was the start of the season a few months back and we were bringing him in, that'd probably been all right, but not now. Like Acsom says, we need to build on the quality, stop replacing for, I'm not saying projects because it wouldn't be a project, but for backups. What we need to start now is finding replacements to overtake our backups, the likes of your Greg Taylors, unfortunately, etc., your Joe Harts. But no, it'd be underwhelming. I think there'd be an absolute riot online because we didn't get where we wanted in January, and this is the fresh slate now to go, right, we're going to trim here and we're going to add quality here. That's all we want to see. I really want to see this squad trimmed down because, like, there could be, I'm going to go for the word again, some toxicity. Yes, toxicity in the dressing room coming from it. If you're not getting played, you're going to be annoyed whether you're the nicest person in the world or not. It can just take a little mood change to rock the boat from the bottom going up. So let's get rid of the deadwood and let's start to see some quality. I want to write. We're not going to get it, but I want a really good name coming in, but it won't happen.
You know, the other important thing, sorry, I was just going to say, is the importance of Saturday's win is just huge, just for even psychologically, because what it now does, I know some people are saying, "Oh, look, it doesn't paper over the cracks," and not at all. We all know the concerns that are still there, but we had to make a start and see these last 3 games. It's been a really good response from everyone concerned, be it the management, the players, the fans, all united. But what Saturday also gives us is Brendan's not daft. He knows the quality issues that he was saying a couple of weeks ago still exist, but he can now use that victory as ammunition, saying, "Look, we're still in a strong position, but I need quality and I need that quick." And I think he can use that to really try and hammer home that message to the board and the recruitment team that, look, we're still in a great position here, but the issues that we've highlighted for the last couple of weeks still exist. So let's make sure that we don't slack again, because that could have gone horribly wrong in the last couple of weeks. These last 3 games that we had to win, it could have gone the other way. And then we're really chasing, and then people will be on the manager's back, and the whole mood would have been completely different. But now that we've got the win, it seems like everyone's kind of united again. Like I say, the concerns don't go away completely, but there's a good mood about the place. There's a feel-good factor again. Let's kick on from that. And I think the manager and the captain, the stuff that they're coming out with, I think we can make moves. We've all said it's not going to be an easy window to do drastic changes, but just a couple of pieces of quality, a couple of additions that can come straight into that first team can make a whole bit of difference to this Celtic team.
Yeah, I agree. I totally do. The McKenna rumours don't seem to be going away. We will be covering them on a daily basis on a Celtic State of Mind. Now, we've spoken about the first 2 goals. We'll be talking about some other individual performances and incidents from the game as well. The third goal, let's look at that from a Celtic perspective then. I'll start with you, the goalkeeper, the in-house goalie, and Jerry, because there was a discussion raging on about Joe Hart's overall performance. And in isolation, if you're looking at that goal, I'm sure you could look at just about every free kick and you could start picking holes in what the goalie should do, can't do anymore, etc., etc. I'm not buying into it being his age, because I don't think we were thinking about Joe Hart's positioning when Lee Griffiths scored 2 goals from free kicks for Scotland against them. I don't think it's an age thing. I just think it's Joe Hart. What I would say about that particular free kick, Jerry, and this is me non-goalkeeping, if he saves that, it's a world-class save. Everybody's raving about it and you're looking at it for years to come. I thought he had a decent game overall. I do. I think in the first half, during that spell where Rangers had a bit of pressure because Celtic were a bit rattled after Welsh went off after 35 minutes, I think they came into it a wee bit. They had a couple of decent chances. The ones I remembered was Cantwell and McCausland. I thought Joe Hart did really well there. So overall, I didn't have a concern about his performance, but I've been reading a lot of people who have concerns, particularly about the goal. What was your take on it, Jerry?
Well, when it comes to a goalkeeper saving free kicks, I'm your man for this season.
Obviously.
Right. I want to word this right. I think Hart has done so much better this season than any of us gave him hope. The hope for him. I think he's done well. If he'd have saved that free kick, you're right, it would have been a world-class save. But Celtic should have a goalkeeper that makes that save. We should have a world-class keeper that will make a world-class save. His positioning wasn't wrong. He put a weak hand to it. That's one of those you stretch at your fingers and it will go over the bar. It just looked like his hand was too weak. I think everyone kind of knew where it was going as well, the free kick, but you never know. He's done well. I'm not going to fault him for the game or the free kicks. I think it would be harsh, but it just shows that if we've got that goalkeeper, your Fraser Foster-esque, your Artur Boruc saves, I reckon they would have saved that one. And I'm sorry if it sounds too harsh. But what I will say is he's made a couple of cracking saves this season. There was one that he won his all 3 points. I can't remember who it was against. It was the last.
St Johnstone.
St Johnstone.
Yeah.
Well, listen, compared to what we thought it was going to be like this season, he's been the least of our worries at times. I really do believe that. And he commands the back really well at times. But yes, we do need a new goalkeeper. We've been saying that. But right now, I'm not going to be too harsh on him. I'm not going to compare him to other goalkeepers, that's for sure. I think he's done what he's had to do a lot of the time. And fair play to the boy.
Right. I mean, there is 2 sides of it, Asim, because at that point, even though it was 88th minute, there was loads of injury time played after that. There's still like 15 minutes to go. It does make it a nervy finish to the game. And that was unnecessary because I actually felt, there was 2 pockets of space where I felt that Rangers came back in after Welsh goes off injured, where you're now playing with a makeshift defence. Took us a wee while to settle. And strangely enough, after Rangers go down to 10 men, and I think Rogers mentioned this as well, we didn't seem to deal with that well. They were a wee bit galvanised perhaps as well. But going into the last 10 minutes of the game, we shouldn't have really been concerned, because I felt that overall we dominated the game, we won it well. But that goal did put us on the back foot a wee bit.
Yeah, kind of touches on to the Joe Hart point that I'd just like to kind of make a couple of points on. I'm kind of in between. I'm not. I do think he was at fault for the goal. Personally, I think his positioning at free kicks in general, like the one even before that, I was saying to my nephew and the guy next to me, I was like, he leaves a lot, on that side. It just seems like every time he is vulnerable. You look at the Feyenoord one as well, I thought he was at fault for. So there's been a couple of goals. Now, of course, that happens with any goalkeeper. They're not going to have a flawless, but I just feel like there are certain set pieces now where I do worry about it when he's coming for set pieces and generally free kicks. And the other thing which you mentioned there, yeah, I think we were a wee bit panicky in the last 10 minutes, but I think part of that as well, he doesn't help, because there are times where he's rushing to take a goal kick, and I think everyone's screaming for a bit of calm at that point. Slow the game down, game management. I want us to be intense and playing the quick goal kicks and free kicks at the start of a game or when we're chasing a game. But when you've got 10 minutes to go, I don't know if it's still that Ange mantra of we never stop, but read the room in terms of what's going on. And I think there was times where he's getting the ball from a goal kick and he's quickly passing it to one of the fullbacks or centre backs who aren't even prepared, and then they've not got a pass on for the next guy. And I think that just kind of seeped into the play and the ground, and there was a bit of anxiety for that last 10 minutes of injury time. So I watched the game back because I think it's always a different feeling when you're there to when you watch it back and you're like, okay, maybe it wasn't as nervy as you thought at the time. I think leading up to the free kick, I thought we were pretty comfortable. Yes, we could have been a bit more clinical and a bit more ruthless when we had the extra man advantage and really killed the game. I thought we could have done that. But in terms of their threat, I don't think we were in too much bother until that free kick came. There was, and then after that, yeah, they caused us a bit of bother down that left-hand side with a lot of that Mikey Johnson was responsible for in terms of his lack of tracking back. I don't know if you've seen Greg Taylor's outburst at him, but again, it's good to see that. It was good to see that from Taylor. But I think, yeah, I thought we were pretty comfortable, and then just that last 10 minutes, and it's a bit natural, 10 men or not, the team's going to come, the team that's chasing that goal, and they've got a bit of a lifeline, they're going to come at you. There wasn't any really clear-cut chances, but just a bit of a panic set in, which, again, is probably natural given the situation and the magnitude of the fixture. But yeah, in terms of Joe Hart, I feel that's another area where he can help use his experience to actually slow a game down rather than maybe rush things and then that panics the rest of them as well.
Yeah, I mean that you're right. It probably is a bit of a hangover or a legacy of that "we never stop" mantra that Ange implemented and drummed into to Joe Hart. But there's been elements of his game this season, I think, that have benefited him in the fact that he's not had to deal with the ball so much at his feet. If you look at the probably, the heat map that you get, but it's the passing version of it, whereby the centre halves pass a lot between each other and back to Joe Hart last season. That's changed this time round. It absolutely has changed. I'm really, really keen to get your thoughts in, because we're now going to go to these moments in the game that have been discussed and laboured. Statements have been written, demands have been made, and we're going to have a wee chat about them as well. Barry, hail to you. Happy New Year to all at Acsom and Celts everywhere. Listen, we never take for granted the amount of people that tune in, support us, come to our live events, engage with us online and on the socials and all that kind of stuff. Acsom appreciates it. We absolutely do. And in 2024, we've got loads of plans to make the thing even better for you. And, they will happen gradually throughout the year. Jungle Lion, always a pleasure to see you. In the comment section, no talk of Turnbull penalty. Right, let's get on to the incidents, right? Goldson over the top knee tackle on Bernardo, yes. And the spitting incident, all washed away. Right, I'm going to start with the last one. I'd seen it at the time. I seen it at the time where he's walking off and he's turned round to his left and he has definitely grogged something out of his mouth. Now, it's unbelievable the mental gymnastics that people go through to justify what has happened here, right? But Alan Morrison made a good point yesterday that once you have reprogrammed and realigned your mind to believe the continuation myth and liquidation didn't happen, you could pretty much believe anything, right? So the guy turns out and definitely spits something in the direction of the fan base. It doesn't have to hit them, just for everybody who's telling me that it hit the wall and all. It doesn't have to hit them, right? It's in the direction of those people, insofar as it might have hit them. It's like throwing a bottle into a crowd and it misses everybody. Oh, it's all right, it never hit anyone. No, it's no all right. Okay, so it could still be deemed an assault, because spitting on someone is an assault. Anyway, once we get into
I'd rather get hit by a bottle than spat on.
It's disgraceful.
I'd rather Cantona running kung fu kicked me in the face than get spat on. I'm telling you that right
now. A cowardly act, right? And as I say, it's raged on online. I've not seen any statements being made by Celtic, because it's not really our style. But yeah, it was an incident for me that I was contacted by someone who was sitting right there and told me a blow by blow. Yeah, he did spit. It hit the wall. It was definitely a spit, right? And that's an eyewitness who's standing yards away. Asking, no mention of it. And then, the part of the meltdown is, how dare you suggest that one of our players spat at your fans? Yeah. Talk about deflection. It needs dealt with.
Yeah, I didn't see it obviously at the time. I was at the stadium, but watched it back, and as you see, it's plain as day. Like it's not even up for debate. He looks in a direction. He's obviously maybe been getting a bit of chat from the fans, and he's aimed it. Whether, like you say, whether it hits or not is totally irrelevant. The act in itself, disgusting. And I wish Celtic would make a statement, because it's like you say, it's not even debatable. It's I would like to hear what the defence is, or what if they've got any comments on that, because for me, that's, as Jerry says, that's foul. It's one of the worst things you can do. And I don't know, was it El Hadjouf over a decade back that I remember similar? So they've got form, and I would like to see something clarified or spoke about. The fact it's barely been mentioned in the mainstream media says it all. It's all been chat about a penalty that was, again, just baffling. The fact that the lack of logic, when I put something up yesterday and then someone's still replying to it, being like, yeah, the offside's irrelevant. They don't even know the rules. They're not even willing to learn the rules. It's just baffling, but it's all part of the fun, I guess, the meltdown. But you just wish the actual mainstream media. I remember watching BBC Sports Scene, and again, they're talking about it as if it's a big incident. It's not. It's not a big incident. It cannot be a penalty given the offside. So, just baffling, but it doesn't surprise you.
No, you're talking there about the mainstream, and I do agree with that, Asim, because it's a cowardly act, but it's also cowardly not to go near that act. If you're a journalist worth your salt, cover the story. Absolutely expose that, right? Because within a couple of hours, I got a message from a Celtic fan who was an eyewitness. That's how easy it is to start piecing what's happened together, right? But what I would say on the flip side is, anyone on social media can get the traction going. I mean, the tweet that I put out yesterday has got something like 850,000 impressions. It's done the business with regards to exposing what has happened. And what I find quite amusing about that is all the Rangers fans who are absolutely raging at the fact that I would suggest it are continually throwing more ammunition into the mix, which means it continues to get traction and it continues to get the impressions. It continues to grow and put the video out there. So thanks very much, every single one of you, for making the comments and the threats and the claims and everything else that you've made, because
some of them are increasing.
Yeah, but the thing is, Jerry, it's bizarre, because they think that they're going to actually affect me or my state of mind, but what they're actually doing is they're increasing the traction of the video. And that's what's important. So keep it coming. No problem at all. But Jerry, I mean, it is one of the things whereby you look at it and say, how should we deal with it? Why should we put up with it silently? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, just what we're doing is constantly sharing it, retweeting it, and just trying to get it out there and hope that one of the mainstream picks it up, and that the SFA, they do something about it. It's disgusting. It's like the big massive furore when Lee Griffiths ties a scarf around a post. To me, that's absolutely nothing compared to one of your players spitting at our fans.
It's just patter. It's just right.
Exactly, and I think we're kind of losing that in the game as well. So, it needs to be rectified, eradicated out of the game. It's disgusting. I don't want to see it. If one of our players, see the thing is, see if one of our players did it, we would condemn them. I know that for a fact, because there's no getting away from that, and the videos are there. I think we're being a bit unfair on the other mob, though, when it comes to like the penalty decision. Addiction's a terrible thing. Now, if you've been given a penalty pretty much every week, they're a week penalty. Oh yes, they're a penalty, and then it comes a week you don't get one. You are going to be gagging for it, aren't you? So you can understand the meltdown. They've not got their fix. So have some sympathy. It's New Year's, boys.
It's also one of the things, Jerry, where how dare you question us about this? You know, it's
Aye.
like, I'm not interested in the rules. We should have got that penalty. As Acsom saying, they don't look at the actual fact of the matter. It takes Bobby Madden to come out and make a statement on his Instagram
Well, they didn't like that.
explaining the rules, blow by blow. And you think to yourself, we all know Bobby's leanings, let's just say, right? But when he comes out, and it's the second time I remember him doing it, I see him when he's actually saying, no, you're wrong. It wasn't a penalty, you know. And it's one of these things, though, that really needs to be dealt with in that when it doesn't go your way, take it on the chin.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something, do it privately. Don't make public demands. Because we're talking about the safety of referees, I see, not that long ago. Kevin Clancy was threatened at his home address, young kid, wife, the three of them threatened at home, right? And there was this big furore, and everybody then starts backtracking a wee bit and saying, you know what, we need to deal with this a wee bit better. We shouldn't really be throwing a cat amongst the pigeons. And what's happened? The exact same things happened. And, you know, Colum and Walsh, these are the guys that are going to be targeted because that decision didn't go Rangers' way. And that feeds into the fact that they go 74 games without a penalty because referees are in fear. They're in fear of actually making a decision which might result in this type of reaction.
Yeah, it's baffling. I remember. Do you remember? I think it was Gerrard that made a comment about Willie Collum a couple of years back, and then he wasn't involved in one of their games for a long time. So that's, you know, they've got form for this, and then you see Clement, the stuff that he's coming out with as well, and it's just like there's something in the air over there because everyone was talking about, oh, he seems like an alright guy, and the media are loving him, lapping it up, and then one defeat, you know, and one bit of one game where they don't get a penalty, because I think he's been getting used to getting a couple of penalties a game, never mind just the one. And one game where they don't get one, and it's all hell breaks loose, and it's absolute meltdown. They just totally don't even get the rules. It's just been baffling, but hardly surprising. It's like you say, it's just what we're kind of used to it all. But it just shows you they came into this game with such confidence. I think they really thought they were going to do us over. And just the fact that they haven't, and it's just now every excuse under the sun. But from our end, like you say, we just enjoy it and enjoy the absolute meltdown. But it's a bit of delusion from their part as well. And I'm loving it. I've been just enjoying every single bit of it this weekend. I'm sure you guys are the same. But I do feel like it does need called out, and that's, you know, we can do our bit on social media and things, but it does require those in the mainstream media, like, you know, Sutton and others as well, just to really call them out for what is just blatant hypocrisy at times as well.
Well, what happens when you call them out? We've mentioned what happens to referees, right? So if the referee makes the correct decision, but it's not the decision that Rangers as a football club, because if you make a statement, it's from the very top, as a football club disagrees with, you know what reaction the referee gets. It eats into their personal life. If anyone dares to put that out even on social media, what I've had in the last 24 hours is that I've got skeletons in my closet, Acsom, that are going to be revealed. They're going to be exposed. They've tried to link me to the CSA case at Celtic Boys Club. I mean, the things, as I say, the mental gymnastics that they go through and the lengths that they go to try and discredit anybody who dares to question them or who dares to speak about a decision that was correct or a spitting incident that definitely happened if you've got a pair of eyes, right? Anybody that does that, we're going to discredit you, we're going to threaten you, we're going to bully you. And I think that's the biggest issue that we face in Scottish football, Jerry. And the 74 game without a penalty feeds into it. It's part of the problem. They're scared. You imagine at Ibrox, right? 50,000 Rangers fans and you blow for a penalty. And the next game against Celtic, you imagine the absolute meltdown that then ensues. This is a stadium where we've had broken glass in the penalty box. Stadium where a fan ran onto the pitch to attack Scott Brown. He was returned to his seat. That, you know, it's incredible. We can no longer accept tickets for away games because the fans aren't safe. But that fear breeds into the media. It breeds into the officials with the referees. It breeds into the fan base, because imagine putting your neck on the chopping block because they'll come for you. They'll try and discredit you. They'll threaten you online. All this kind of thing, Jerry. So I think it needs to be called out, but it also then needs to be dealt with as well. I think the club needs to be stronger as well, Jerry, with these incidents.
I think so too. I think sometimes the club, like the Green Brigade, put out some of the best statements ever, and I think the club should kind of look to be being a bit more vocal when it comes to these things, because it does sound a bit cowardly. It looks a bit cowardly. Putting all that fight on the park and all us out here fighting, it just seems that they just don't care at times, and they're just, like you say, happy to just, as long as we're top of the league. I don't know. I don't think it's ever going to change, is it? And can you imagine, right? We were the ones to get the penalty against them the other day.
We'll save it for Ibrox, Jerry.
Don't even, mate. Can you? Can you imagine? So let's see how that goes. 74 games. I can't process that. I know. Process that.
It's a trend.
Speechless.
Well, I want to talk about some of the performances as well. We've been told that this Celtic player and that Celtic player should have been sent off, etc., etc. The one guy I seen running about with nose blood flowing from his nose was the one and only Matt O'Reilly. I think it never cleared up. I mean, he was through the wars. It was a battling performance from him. Let's not forget, I think he gets an assist for the Kyogo goal. Nobody was looking at the assist. I think he gets an assist for that. Liam Scales, an absolute warrior at the back for Celtic now, and Callum McGregor playing such an amazing captain's part. And what I like about Callum, and I've noticed that mainly this season, you know, where you do the ball carrying, where you pick the ball up. Chris Ayer was brilliant at it, but Callum does it, and he plays out of trouble. He's normally surrounded by 2 or 3 players. He breaks out of that, and then he carries the ball. He turns defence into attack, that transition. And Rodgers was talking about him after the game. I'd have took him anywhere, he says. When I left this football club, I'd take him anywhere. Aye, different level. He tried to. Aye, cheers, Brendan. He's a different level of player. They 3 for me, I thought, really, for me yesterday, were massive for Celtic.
Yeah, I'm going to start with McGregor. I thought he was incredible. Honestly, I think that he's came in for criticism this season, and even a few weeks ago. And like, no player's exempt from criticism, but I remember even saying that for me, he deserves to be cut a bit of slack, because this is a guy who's been so consistently good for years for us. So, you know, when it's players like that, or even Kyogo, who are maybe going through a slight blip, I think they deserve to be cut that slack. And he's shown it in both derby games this season. He's been head and shoulders above anyone else on that pitch. And Brendan was right. He's on a different level when he's playing like that. And you could tell within the first few minutes. And as you say, it's that kind of the way he gets away from players. He's deceptively quite quick. He's so clever. He's such a good leader on the pitch. And it's almost like he knows he's the best player on that pitch. And when it comes to these games, he really brings it out. And I honestly loved his performance from start to finish. I loved his after-match comments. And you can see he's got that respect of the players around him. And I think he's now getting the respect of those around him. It's like he's now earning, like the other players are now earning his trust as well. Because I think we mentioned that a few weeks ago. I thought that was part of why his performances had maybe slightly dipped. Brendan's alluded to it. He's almost doing the job of 2 players sometimes, because that midfield 3, we've never really had the third player contributing brilliantly. And it has been like McGregor's trying to do 2 jobs. But you've seen that now that Bernardo's really upped his game. Yeah. You see McGregor really upping his game as well. And I just think he's going to kick on from that. I think he's a magnificent captain, a magnificent servant, brilliant player. The fact that Rodgers loves him, our previous managers have all loved him. I know he's not had his greatest season, but when it really matters, he's came up trumps again, and that was honestly it was just imperious from start to finish. Could not be higher in my praise for Callum. In terms of Matt O'Reilly, brilliant. I thought he was really good for that assist. I think it was a really good bit of play, which, like you say, probably goes unmentioned just because of the quality of Kyogo's touch and finish afterwards. But O'Reilly, again, he's quietly going about his business. He's maybe tailed off in the last couple of weeks, but I think it just helps that we've got 3 midfielders playing well right now, and they can all kind of share that load, whereas for a while it was just, Matt O'Reilly was the unformed one, and then McGregor's came into it. So I think once we get a settled midfield 3, and the fact that we've had a settled team now, it's us played the same lineup for 2 or 3 games, and you can see it. It makes such a difference to our performances. So, look, I think, without getting too ahead of ourselves, I think we're in a good place, and we're, the players you mentioned, Scales as well. Now, I've kind of been a bit slower with my gushing of praise for him. I think he's been brilliant, but I've always thought, look, let's see it over a longer period. Let's see over a longer sample of games. But he's done it in the Champions League. He's done it in the derby games. He's consistently performing. So, we've got to just hold our hands up and say that he's a key contributor of this team now. And I thought, again, on Saturday there, he was brilliant.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Jerry's going to take us into 2024 with a wee quiz, Asim. So I hope you've been doing your research. But before I go to Jerry, tell me about that top. That is absolutely stunning.
This one, Acom's the belt.
Jerry, aye. By the way, that looks good with a hood underneath as well. That's a cracker. Where'd you get it? Talking to you, Asim. No, I'm not doing
a pod. Sorry, I wasn't sure which one.
I'm not doing a pod. Jerry's one.
I wasn't sure which one. No, this one is from it's an account on Instagram and on Twitter, Palestina. So they do great work, obviously, with tops and all the money kind of goes towards the funds in Gaza and for the people of Gaza. So yeah, it's a great cause. So I bought a few of these last week for myself and a few family members. So yeah, it's I've seen it's been getting a bit of chat in the comments. It might not be for everyone, but yeah, it's for me. It's for a great cause, and I'll continue to fight that cause. And if the top looks good as well, that's an extra bonus.
Now, just to let everyone know, just because you buy the top doesn't mean you're going to look like Acsom, right? So just there would be good. But
yeah, Jerry, sorry about that, mate. I cut you off there, but yeah, you've been working away, taking us into 2024 with a bit of fun. Come on, let's finish this off. We're having a good time. We've had a cracking result there at the weekend, and Jerry, you're going to top it all off as for Asim.
It's you going up against Acsom. Join along at home. I've always wanted to do this. It's just a 5-question quiz from 2023. There's much better questions out there, but these are the best I could do. I put it together in about 10 minutes. Right, hold on. I've lost my right. And I agree with Acsom. Callum McGregor, wow, unreal. He was just gliding. See when he's gliding across the gliding gladiator. Absolutely brilliant. Scales, amazing. Who was it? And Matt O'Reilly. I was actually thinking about you because you've got a man crush on Paul John. So I was like, he's on that pitch. When somebody better check on Paul John here. Absolutely,
he wore it well. He wore it well. Right, let's go for it.
Will we buzzer in here or what? No.
I don't have any sound effects.
Right, no, Paul John, you've got to shout Scalesy. Okay. And Anthony, you've got to shout Kyogo, right?
Right.
Okay. Celtic kicked off 2023 with a 2-2 draw against Rangers. Kyogo scored the equaliser, but who got the first for Celtic?
No good one.
Boom. Is there anyone in the comments put something in there?
Acsom. No, Kyogo.
I'm afraid.
What?
It was Dyson.
No, that was me buzzing. You said I have to say Kyogo.
Oh, sorry, right, what's your answer?
Just gave the answer away.
But just to tell you, I remember it well. Alfredo Morelos gave away an absolute howler of a pass into Dyson Maeda, and then he went through and slotted it in.
That's mad that he was still here. That's right.
Wait a minute. Nice. Is he getting the point for this? You just
surely
answer.
We should have better buzzer noises than
my buzzer noise will be Acsom going forward, right?
I'll shout dignity. Right, here we go.
Right, okay. Right. Question 2. Which club did Celtic beat 5-0 in the 4th round of the Scottish Cup in 23? Acsom.
Morton.
Congratulations. It was Greenock Morton, but I'll give you that. Right. I'm going to give 1-0, Acsom. I'll give a different question for them, right? Celtic signed Naroki, the guy that played the other day, from which club?
Excuse me.
Acsom.
Oh, Paul John, you're in there first.
Legia Warsaw.
Congratulations. It was Legia Warsaw, same club that Artur Boruc came from.
I think it's Legia Warszawa. Is that how they call it over in?
Is that how they say it? Well, today it's Warsaw, right? Question 4. So what's that? 1 each?
2-1. 2-1. I know Asim wouldn't lie about Maeda, right? Who's pressure on me here?
This might be a tough one, right? Who was sent off for Atletico Madrid at Celtic Park?
Acsom.
Oh, Acsom.
Rodrigo de Paul.
Oh, well done, Acsom. Well done, mate. Cool. I'd only put Arde Paul, so I didn't know what the first name was. Right.
Well done. Well done.
Okay, this is just for fun now, Paul John. Unfortunately, you've been trounced here. Okay.
You sound like you've really meant that. Thanks. It's only 2-1. You're not getting the Maeda one. Right, let's go.
Fair enough. Make it exciting, go.
My fault, the host, the questionnaires' fault there. Right. Last question. A Celtic select played St Roch's in the centenary this year.
Skillsy.
That's no fair.
Go for it.
4-3.
No, I'll continue the question.
Can I?
I was subbed on against St Roch's, but what Celtic goalkeeper did I replace?
I know this, but I'm not sure if I can answer it.
Right, okay.
Which Celtic goalkeeper? Ex-Celtic goalkeeper.
Celtic goalkeeper did I replace?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
By the way, we were losing.
I'm going to go with Jonathan Gould.
Can I answer?
You can answer, John.
Scott Fox.
It was Foxy boy. What a guy is there. There we go.
Was that a narrow victory there?
Is that two each? Is there not a tie-break decider?
Have you got a tiebreaker? Have you got a tiebreaker?
Right. No, but I'll come up with one.
Right.
Okay, it's an easy one because we've spoken about it already today, but get ready. Oh no, we haven't spoken about it today. Whose goal was disallowed against Lazio at Celtic Park in the Champions League? Oh, Paul John.
Oh, come on.
It was Palmer. It was Palmer.
Hey, I might be on some kind of delayed timer here, Acsom. You might have been.
That's my Wi-Fi's poor. My Wi-Fi's poor. That's what it is.
We should do a proper one.
Get the excuses in now. Make the statement. Demand the audio. Come on, let's get this sorted. Jerry,
that was good.
Just before we go, I just want to say I've tried setting up this agency, a dating agency for chickens, but I couldn't make ends meet.
It's a good start for 2024. Jerry, it was an absolute pleasure. This is what it's all about. A nice bit of positivity today. And as I say, skeletons in the closet. I'm going to have to make an admission before we go. Back in 1996, I did rent a video called Braveheart from Global Video in Oakley in 1996. And I returned it late, never ever paid my fee, right? And in June 2006, Global Video went into administration, and I feel partly responsible for no paying my bill. So I'm sorry, it's out there. Feel free to comment. Thanks everybody for getting involved, and thank you to Jerry and Acsom for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.